We play dozens of video games every decade, and all of them are a different experience. Though most of them can easily be forgotten despite being fun, some of them tend to stay with you as the memory because they felt like an experience. Not something that you matched buttons through, but something that designed with such care that it made you feel something. Red Dead Redemption 2 is famous for many things. As soon as it was released, it managed to break records of sales in the video games industry and made so much money that even people from other entertainment industries were finally starting to pay attention. It had unparalleled scale and was one of the biggest video games ever created, which is no surprise for Rockstar Games because they have been defining the open world genre for decades now. However, even with Rockstar, not everything has been same impact. Grand Theft Auto 3 was a big deal when it was new, yet it was easily overshadowed by the games that came after it. But when you look at something like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, it's the complete opposite, as even after over a decade later with 2 HD sequels, the legacy of that game refuses to die down. And that's the type of game that the Red Dead Redemption 2 is. Sure, it was very remarkable when it was newly released, but that could have been overshadowed by games that came after it, especially since entirely new generation of gaming consoles have been released by today. Yet Red Dead Redemption 2 has left an impact so strong on gamers that it's still one of the first games that are mentioned when great video games in recent years that are talked about. What makes Red Dead Redemption 2 such a masterpiece? Why is it still so relevant even though so many AAA video games have been released since? Let's jump on our horses and ride into the wilderness to answer this million-dollar question. It's undeniable that the open world genre of video games is currently dominating the market. Not only are so many new games centered around being an open world and including the RPG elements, even many rivals and continuations of older franchises are going down the path. But most of them have barren worlds with hardly anything to do in them, repetitive side quests and bullet sponge enemies that force you constantly leveling up. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that does not forcibly inflate its world. It takes place in a beautiful part of America set in the Wild Wild West era, full of outlaws and conflicts, which features so many unique types of locations and terrain that makes it all feel realistic and unique. Some parts of the game's map have towns, saloons, and houses. Some parts of the map are filled with wildlife, trees, and forests. And some parts of the map have large mountains and are always filled with snowfall. And even within the towns of the game, there's a distinction between the wealth of the people that live there and that apparent both from the way the people are dressed and how clean and sturdy their architecture is. Then within all these places, there is so much to be found. There are NPCs that react realistically to your presence. There are buildings that you can enter and they provide some kind of a service to you, such as the place where you can get drunk, buy clothes, buy guns, buy things for your horse, and so on. There's hardly a barren town in the game and it feels like you visited a real place in the world rather than a random spot in a video game. But that's just not all. A lot of games' maps consist of wilderness and mountains and rough roads, and normally you'd expect those parts to feel a bit empty, because of the general standard of the open world games that we have today. But that couldn't have been further than the truth, because Red Dead Redemption 2's map does not feel empty in any point. There are many unique animals and birds spread out throughout the game's map that you can find and hunt. There's so many unique horses that you can tame and different rarities controlled differently to each other, and some have even more stamina and perhaps others have better handling than the others. Then we have the fact that the game is not only filled with side quests, but there are many encounters that you can run into here and there, which feel like a true outlaw experience. You can help people, you can rob people, you can hunt down criminals, and sometimes you can even get betrayed by an NPC who you try to help. The unpredictability of these encounters makes the experience feel so unique, and that's why you never feel lost in the game's map, because there's always something to do. It's so hard to find a game which does not make the mistake of having a large but empty open world. And it's even harder to find a game that lets you play the story as much as you want and it does not force you to waste hours on repetitive side missions. Red Dead Redemption 2 lets the players pick their own approach, and when they finally spend some time in the open world, it feels entertaining instead of a chore. RPG as a genre is not bad in any possible way. It allows players to feel more intimately connected to their characters and their world and adds a feeling of realism to the experience. However, when AAA games, RPG elements, and open world are in the same sentence, repetition is always lurking around the corner. Red Dead Redemption 2 rejected these tropes and instead added unique RPG mechanics that are very fun to maintain. For example, your horse feels hungry, gets tired, and runs out of the stamina. They don't refuse to be loyal to you if you don't take care of them, but their performance being lowered is noticeable. However, you don't have to waste time in leveling them up, because you can hunt wildlife or buy food and other energy-related things for them. It makes the experience fun because of the realism and lack of the repetition in the mechanic. Your character has many stats that you can maintain. Your looks, whether you're showered or not, what you eat, and how effective your ZDEyE skills will be as a result of it, and whether you're honorable or dishonorable. All of these change in your overall experience in subtle yet fun ways and makes every playthrough feel personal in a different way. There's even a mechanic which notes what clothes you're wearing and your experience changes a little based on where you are. For example, if you're in a snowy area with thinner clothes, your character will feel cold. But if you're in a sunny day with warmer clothes, he'd feel sweaty instead. These details are just very fun to manage and require far more creativity than just make enemies bullet spongy. Based on your honor level, the outcomes so many scenes plays out differently, and there's even a difference to be found in the endings. Sure, the main structure of the story remains practically the same, but every playthrough having a difference is a great way to make the game have a grander feeling. It's always more fun to make such mechanics a choice, rather than something that the player feels forced to participate in. Red Dead Redemption 2 lacks of repetition is exactly what makes the design of the game so memorable. When you think back how you got funny mustache or shot a posy for no reason, you'll remember it was something you did and not just a random task that you had to participate in to unlock in the next story mission. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the most detailed video games ever made, and that is not just limited to the gameplay elements or map uniqueness that I mentioned. Ever since the dawn of time, people have made fun of how things look in video games, especially those that are not primarily focused on what the gameplay is about. Animals, buildings, windows, side characters, all of it often looks hilarious and low-poly. RDR2 is the exact opposite, everything looks amazingly realistic. The characters' models have a lot of detail and look fantastic. The animations is fluid and you can tell that a lot of time has been spent on getting those motion captures right. And even the smallest of things such as the skinning off the hide of the animal or how meat looks when hung on the butcher's shop is so realistic that it makes you wonder why Rockstar even spends so much time on these things. But whereas other games compromise in quality or random things to focus on what's primarily important, Rockstar Games did not spare any expense with RDR2. Everything that matters in the most beautifully detailed, but so are the things that you might not even look at twice. As hilarious as it may be, even things like horses' testicles in Red Dead 2 was built with care, as certain weather condition can make it shrink or expand. It's just a level of detail that no other game has managed to achieve, and it makes so much sense that the game wasn't in development for so damn long.
See the fire in your eyes. See the fire in your eyes. See the fire in your eyes.
Despite how fun Red Dead 2 gameplay, exploration, and open worlds are, or how amazing the game's graphics, textures, animations, and details are, perhaps the most memorable thing about the Red Dead Redemption 2's, it is the story. It does an excellent job of portraying how brutal the life of an outlaw was and how it's only affected the lives of the people who lived with a gun in their hands, but also for those around them, such as women, children, elders, and more. All of these characters are written with such a detail that have unique personality that makes you like them, or perhaps dislike them. Whether it's Arthur Morgan, John Marston, Dutch, or any other characters of the main cast and the crew, they all make you feel something, and so does a story that has so many consequences, struggles, hurdles, and even moments of happiness for them. Even the side characters of the game add so much life to the world that Rockstar has built, and you feel an attachment to them that makes RDR2 the only game where you will find all of them. Other games will have people that you would like too, but to meet certain characters you will always have to come back to this specific game. And of course, without getting into any spoilers, as you might be someone who wishes to play the game after watching this video and hasn't though already, the ending of the game features some of the best storytelling that I have seen in this medium. Not to mention that the performance given by the characters is so amazing as well. It's a game that can last up to 70 to 100 hours, but the story does not feel dragged out at all. Nor are you forced to waste time on side missions while the story is kept away from you. Instead, it feels like a beautiful journey that you have to live through, and eventually you'll fall in love with this misfit, imperfect cast of characters who just want a good life, while also hypocritically they are always ready to shed blood. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a video game that took years of effort, hard work, blood, sweat, tears, crunching, and a beautiful vision to the masterpiece that it is today. Whereas Rockstar used to release so many games within a decade before, the time and attention that Red Dead Redemption 2 took to be made resulted in the company only releasing Grand Theft Auto 5 alongside it in its long time. It's easy to find a game with a good story, or a game with great graphics, or a game with a fun RPG mechanics that are not intrusive, or a game with a good open world. However, finding all of that in the same game with such a fun gameplay and overall smooth, crisp feel to its polish, it's no easy task. Though the multiplayer of the game had a lot of potential and was so much fun to play, unfortunately, due to the mismanagement and a bit of lack of interest perhaps as well, its further development was abandoned, so that all the resources can be allocated into the development of the Grand Theft Auto 6, and also the wildly popular Grand Theft Auto Online, and it just simply refuses to die. It's actually going to be very exciting to see what Grand Theft Auto 6 has for us, but I can't help but wonder how Red Dead Redemption 3 will try to top what Red Dead 2 did. Will it be a better game? Will it be just as good? Or will it fail to leave a legacy behind and remain under the shadows of Red Dead Redemption 2? Or perhaps it may never be even made at all. Time will answer all these questions, but for now, I feel privileged to have been able to experience such an amazing video game, and I know for certain that it's a masterpiece that won't easily be topped in years to come. Please do consider supporting me on my Patreon to see these special videos earlier, including with the extra additional rewards. And check out my playlist of all of these special videos that I already have released. I'm very proud of them and already have made more than 80 of these very special videos do let me know what you think of them as well. Having an amazing day, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later.